Our favorite restaurants are vanishing from sight as worsening economic conditions continue to squeeze U.S. businesses. With shoppers eating out less and tightening their budgets, even big names in the industry are seeing their operations rot from within. Over the past 3 years, over 160,000 restaurants have been permanently closed around the country, and unfortunately that trend is still picking up force in 2023. That's why today we've decided to list some of America's beloved food joints that are reducing operations or going out of business this year. But before moving on, we humbly ask you to support our work with a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming lists. Without further ado, here are 15 big restaurant chains that filed for bankruptcy. 1. Corner Bakery. Once seen as a major rival to big bakery chains like Panera Bread, Corner Bakery faced a huge wave of store closings in recent years, and the revenue loss caused by the smaller store count, in addition to the financial challenges brought on by the pandemic, led the chain to default on its credit facility last year. The company was working on putting together a payoff plan with lenders when a firm called SSCP Management acquired the chain's debt. At the time, SSCP planned to foreclose on Corner Bakery's assets and even scheduled a sale of collateral, which is what led to Corner Bakery filing for bankruptcy in the first place as protection against asset seizure. Earlier this month, the chain, which was valued at $40 million just a year ago, accepted a $15 million purchase bid from SSCP Management, which is now eliminating underperforming locations and trying to reorganize the chain to make it profitable again. 2. McDonald's. It's hard to believe, but even the biggest and most successful fast food chains in the world are not immune to bankruptcies among franchisees. Just a couple of months ago, Rice Enterprices LLC declared bankruptcy and shuttered all of the McDonald's restaurants it operated. Serious labor issues involving minors led the franchisee to face a millionaire lawsuit that affected the brand as a whole. Last month, the company announced hundreds of store closings, not only in America but all across the globe. Some of its formats have become outdated, executives say. The decision was made after a team of board members discussed the growth potential of certain locations and decided to focus on the ones with higher financial returns, excluding struggling stores from its portfolio. 3. Burger King. After passing along a series of price increases to its customers, Burger King has seen a dramatic sales slowdown in 2023, and that has put some of its biggest franchisees on the brink of financial ruin. Earlier this year, Tom's King Holdings, considered one of the top-performing operators in North America just a few years ago, revealed that its stores were in big trouble and filed for bankruptcy, surprising many other Burger King franchisees. Per court filings, Tom's King's business suffered significantly from a loss of foot traffic, resulting in declining revenue without proportionate decreases in rental obligations, debt service, and other liabilities. To make things worse, another major Burger King franchisee, Meridian Restaurants Unlimited, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy as well in March. The Utah-based firm is one of Burger King's largest franchisees, and hundreds of locations are waiting to be sold or go dark in the months ahead. More recently, another operator, EYM King, closed roughly 30 restaurants after a dispute with the burger chain. Prior to the closures, Burger King had sued franchisee EYM King for an alleged failure to pay required royalties, ad fund payments, and other outstanding fees in relation to the operation of Burger King restaurants located in Michigan. From that point on, the store closures just kept coming for the restaurant chain. By the end of 2023, over 500 locations will be gone for good. About 124 stores have already been shut down, and another 400 underperforming restaurants are in the process of going out of business. 4. Hardees. Coping with cash flow problems for the past couple of years, one of Hardees' biggest operations is now shuttering hundreds of locations after filing for Chapter 11 in May. Before the filing, Summit Restaurant Holdings had already closed 40 Hardees locations this year. Right now, executives are looking for a qualified and well-capitalized buyer with a record of success across the restaurant, entertainment, food, beverage, and retail markets, according to court documents. The company also revealed that it's been facing serious issues since the pandemic, with foot traffic flatlining, inflationary pressures squeezing profits, and higher food and labor costs making it increasingly more expensive for underperforming locations to stay open. 5. Popeyes. Owned by the same parent company as Burger King, the popular chicken chain Popeyes also dealt with the bankruptcy of one of its biggest franchisees this year. Premier Cajun Kings was founded by Manraj Patrick Sidhu in 2018, and by the next year he had tripled the number of stores he operated, and they generated over $30 million in annual sales. Tragically, Mr. Sidhu passed away in May 2022, and his business was never able to fully recover from the loss of its sole manager. Declining sales, soaring costs, and operating losses forced the franchisee to close a large number of restaurants in Alabama and Tennessee. Some stores were evicted by a landlord, leaving the company with only half of its locations. In March 2023, PCK finally filed for bankruptcy. This tragic loss, coupled with various macroeconomic factors, has caused tremendous uncertainty and disruption within the business, court documents from the bankruptcy filing read. 6. Tasty Freeze. Founded in 1915, Tasty Freeze is a fast food restaurant specializing in soft-serve ice cream that's rapidly disappearing from our economic landscape. During its peak, Tasty Freeze operated over 2,000 locations all around the U.S., but by the beginning of the century, less than 100 stores were still open. The chain helped to shape other popular fast food chains that have grown to become some of its biggest competitors over the years. Today, the bankrupt company has only 4 locations in operations, and before Americans even notice, those stores may say goodbye forever as the Tasty Freeze brand dies out. 7. Del Taco. Today, the idea that Del Taco could be a significant threat to Taco Bell's Mexican fast food empire seems nonsensical. But in the early 90s, before Chipotle and Moe's entered the market, Del Taco was actually the head-to-head with Taco Bell, and the chain's eagerness to imitate the action of its largest competitor was that it led to its ruin. According to the Los Angeles Times, overexpansion driven by a desire to match the might of Taco Bell left the chain with serious cash flow problems. With a substantial debt load to restructure, Del Taco filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, closing 175 restaurants since 2020. 8. Crystal. Pandemic lockdowns forced hundreds of thousands of restaurants to permanently close in a year's span. Considering this turbulent scenario, if we told you the fast food chain Crystal filed for bankruptcy in 2020, you'd probably assume it did because of the crisis that ensued and victimized several businesses from all over the country. But that was not the case with Crystal. Facing 7 quarters of falling sales, the fast food chain actually filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in January 2020, 2 months after the COVID-19 outbreak started to spread across the globe. Closing nearly 50 restaurants the year prior, Crystal's unfortunately timed decision to file for court protection so soon before the COVID-19 pandemic limited its potential options, according to QSR magazine. Now the company is still trying to ensure its survival, and analysts estimate that before the end of the decade, the chain may have disappeared completely. 9. Chuck E. Cheese. Chuck E. Cheese has marked generations and gained huge popularity over the decades. Founded in San Jose, California, the pizza chain is a hit amongst kids, but that doesn't mean things have always been easy for the company. The chain isn't new in bankruptcy courts, with its first filing recorded in 1984 when it was carrying a debt of $50 million in defaulted bonds. Its parent company, Pizza Time Theater, decided to seek court protection to avoid corporate destitution. Even though that helped the chain to stay in business, it didn't ensure the chain's long-term survival, especially in the middle of a once-in-a-lifetime global pandemic. Only this time around, the company held a $705 million debt. Up until this day, the future of Chuck E. Cheese remains uncertain. But given the size of its debt load, only a miracle can save the chain from filing for bankruptcy again in the near future. 10. Rubios Coastal Grill. Product shortages, higher labor costs, and rising prices for customers have hit the restaurant chain's balance sheet over the past 3 years. Facing a huge drop in annual revenue, the company filed for bankruptcy to renegotiate its outstanding debt and fight for a chance to stay in business. After finding a new lender to save Rubios Coastal Grill and make it financially viable again, the chain recently reemerged for bankruptcy, giving a dash of hope to other indebted brands that are facing the same process right now. 11. Blue Star. Selling donuts to adults, the gourmet fast food chain entered the market, competing with some of the biggest players in the industry, such as Dunkin' Donuts and Krispy Kreme. Its higher-priced products and lower sales volume started to weigh on its finances during the pandemic when it filed for bankruptcy for the first time. The donut chain continued to face headwinds, leading to a second filing in 2022. Now, only 3 stores remain open in Oregon, the state where it was founded. 12. IHOP. With sales collapsing 33%, IHOP's franchisee CFRA Holdings filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and closed 50 restaurants in the process. Some of the locations were purchased by Guillermo Perales Sun Holdings in October and are now operated by Suncails LLC, but dozens of others didn't have the same luck. In court, CFRA said it lacked the liquidity to repay debt or run operations due to the closing of dining rooms. That led all employees to be laid off as executives cut costs to find a buyer for its $22.8 million debt load. The problem is that things aren't improving for the chain, which is touted as a bad investment right now. IHOP finished Q1 with a decline of 14.7% in same-store sales, revealing that it still is facing serious challenges. 13. California Pizza Kitchen. Beloved West Coast chain California Pizza Kitchen filed for bankruptcy and shut down roughly 13% of all its restaurants. The 35-year-old pizza chain filed for Chapter 11, explaining that the process will help it reduce its long-term debt load and emerge as a much stronger company. It warned that it will close all unprofitable locations, but didn't specify how many of its restaurants will be affected. With $47 million in debt and only $13 million cash on hand, the outlook for the chain remains cloudy. 14. Golden Corral. Buffets have been particularly hard hit by the pandemic because of the ban on their underlying format. But even after the economy reopened, the sector never fully recovered, and that was a shock for Golden Corral. Its franchise group, 1069 Restaurant Group LLC, went bankrupt last year and showed on court that the chain had amassed a debt of $49.7 million, which 1069 attributed to restaurant closures and depressed sales since the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic's business impact on our segment has been significant. Recovery has been slow, and some franchisees will not be able to continue to operate without additional financial relief, said Golden Corral CEO Lance Trenery. 15. Ruby Tuesday. Just like many others, the Tennessee-based casual chain is struggling to stay relevant against a growing pool of fast food and fast casual rivals. With sales plunging in the past few years, the company was pushed into bankruptcy, hoping to restructure and stay in the U.S. market for longer. Ruby Tuesday CEO Sean Lederman told the court that the chain does not intend to reopen 185 of their restaurants that were closed during the pandemic. Lederman's court filing also cited declining mall traffic and the cost of living crisis as factors impacting Ruby Tuesday's revenue. The company is currently in the process of finding a buyer for its business, and its survival is still at stake. When a company files for bankruptcy, it doesn't immediately free itself of all prior financial obligations. A series of financial arrangements need to be agreed upon, and as a result, a Chapter 11 bankruptcy generally takes between 6 months and 2 years to resolve. This means many of these businesses are now sitting in limbo, waiting to be rescued or about to die out. With a recession at our door, it's difficult to see which ones will be the survivors. Thank you for watching.